give Pontus and Britta a big round of applause. Like the first, we have some people that's new. We are streaming it live from the students that are studying from the distance, so you know. If you want us to blur your face or something, just let us know after the workshop. And this is going to be really interesting to hear how you make your personal letter and resume to stand out. And afterwards, if you have brought your CVs and personal letter, you're going to get some feedback on it. So let's roll.
Yes, thank you. Yes, my name is Pontus and I work at Kornboden. And with me today, I have Britta, who will later on assist me on giving you feedback on your resume or your personal letter, if you brought that. First, I'm going to give you a short background of what company I work in. Kornboden is a recruitment and staffing agency. We started 20 years ago in Östersund, and today we have offices in Örnsköldsvik, Örebro, Sundsvall and Hälsingland. All of these offices are in Sweden. And what we do is we help companies find their next coworker, either through recruitment or through that we employ the personnel, and companies can hire staff from us. And the numbers there, we do approximately 100 to 130 recruitments per year, and have between 100 and 130 people employed in our company that we rent to other companies. And of course, if we hire and recruit this many people, we see a lot of resumes and a lot of personal letters as well. So a big part of our day is to read and evaluate resumes. And this is just a picture to show you the companies, or this is our customers that we work with. It's a broad area, everything from economic to industrial companies to support, grocery stores, and etc. So what I want to say with this picture is that we don't read just resume for a specific role or specific job. We read all types of resumes and personal letters. And today I hope I can give you at least some tips. Some of it may be obvious, but the goal is to give you some tip how to think when you're writing, or something that important for the employer to read in your CV or resume or personal letter. But when you apply for a job, you do that with the resume or personal letter. That's most common. Of course, nowadays we have LinkedIn or other things you can apply with. It depends a little bit on what type of job you want to apply to. Of course, if you want to apply to a job with like media or editing videos, maybe the best way to apply to that job is to edit the video and show you your skills. But still, the resume and personal letter is a big part of the application. And then, how to write a resume. The purpose is to give a quick and simple overview. Information regarding education, experience, and your abilities. And include everything that show the employer who you are and what you're capable of. And the resume and the personal letter should not be longer than 1 page, maximum 1 page. Do you have any idea why it should be just 1 page? It's sorry, I'm blowing in the microphone. It's because it's a very important step, reading the resume, but it's also a very quick step. And some employers maybe print the application. And if you have a long applications, maybe it's written on both sides of the paper, it's very easy that information gets missed. So keep it simple to 1 page. It's just going to give the employer a simple overview, a quick overview, if it matches the role you're applying for or not. And of course, applying for a job, the employer may be getting from 10 applications to 50 applications. So you want them to remember you. When you're in a pile of resumes, you want them to remember your resume. So try to give them a good feeling who you are, and don't start by making the employer ask any complicated questions. Make them be curious instead. If you complicate things or describe things that they don't really are, or it's going to just confuse them and make them ask questions, and that's a step two. They're just going to put you aside and go for other applications. So you want to provide a good picture of who you are so they will remember you. If you can make your resume more personal through layout, that's a good idea. And when you're writing, you want some things to pop from the page. Bold things that are important. Example is your name, because you want the employer to remember your name. The role and education, rather than the company name or school. Company name or school are very important, of course, but the thing you want to be popping from the page is the role, the responsibilities you had, the things you worked with, and what you're educated in, what type of area. Why? For example, if you work at Google, Google is a very interesting workplace. But what's even more interesting is what you did at Google, your role. I'm going to show you an example of a CV later, or resume, so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. And as I said before, to give the reader a quick overview. When you bold things that are important, it's easy to give a quick overview. Write employment and education in chronological order, or reverse chronological order. So the last employment is on top, because what's most important or most interesting is what you did the last, or what you do now. Employment 10 years back is not as, how to say, up to date as what you do now. And the same is for courses and education. What you do now, the study you do now, is important. So that's what should be on top of your education list. And include all educations. Maybe you think it don't matter, but it can do. It's up to you to have that discussion with yourself. But one education can tell you something about yourself. something interesting, even though it's not extremely relevant for the job you're applying for. So it can tell the employer something about you that makes them curious. And reference. It's important to have reference. Someone the employer can contact and confirm the things you write in your resume. And the same for personal letter as well. But don't write the employer, the previous employer's name or telephone number. You can just write that you will leave reference on request. They have to contact you to get your reference. That's all that's needed. And for you who don't read or speak Swedish, I'm a bit sorry for this one. This is a picture, so I couldn't translate it, but I will explain it. So this is my colleague Marlene's resume. And as you can see, the bold text is her role. And after the role, it's Kornboden, the employer's name, and so forth. And she starts with the thing she did last. Also very good that she has her name on top of the resume. It's easy to find. It's also very important to find your telephone number and your email address, so it's easy to get in touch with you. So email, telephone number, maybe an address on top of the resume. Very good. You don't want to start looking for your telephone number. It's very easy just to, if you have 100 applications, you will just put you aside. So it should be easy to find your name and your telephone number and email address. And yeah, and the same for education. She studied HR are in bold, and Mittuniversitetet comes second. Still important, but what you study is most important. And picture on resume. Well, it can maybe mean something to some employers and not at all for others. It gives you a good feeling who you are, maybe. And it's maybe easier to connect a face to experience and educations. It's easier maybe to remember the resume. But if you want a picture on your resume, think about what signals it's sending. I used to say, think passport photo, but happy. Not like a party pictures or when you went with your friends to Ayia Napa and you have a beer in your hand. Passport photo, but happy. And Marlene also includes computer knowledge, InVision, SAP, Word, PowerPoint, etc. A lot of jobs today, it's interesting to at least know Office programs. So if you don't include stuff like that, it starts the employer to ask them questions. How about computer knowledge? Is there any or is it none? So write it, so don't ask any questions for the employer. Yes. Is there any questions on resume? Oh, yes.
Well, thank you for presentation. And my question is, what do you think about the Europass CV that people use in Europe? And do you have any information about it? And do you think it's appropriate for applying to the job? And what do you think about the photo that you showed in the CV example? It's kind of a little bit not, I don't know, it's too
Yeah,
formal, I think.
no, it's not as formal as it's not a passport photo, but happy. Yeah, the photo is okay. It doesn't, to start with that question, it doesn't make me start asking a lot of questions. Just give me a sense of a face to connect to the information in the resume. And then you were a question about Europass card.
Europass CV format.
Yeah, do you think applying for a job in Sweden?
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's good to know that you can work in Sweden or in any other countries. So if you're applying for a job in another country, it's good for the employer that you're allowed to work in another country. Or is it?
No, my question wasn't that.
Okay.
There is a Europass CV format that people are constantly using for applying to job in European Union, let's say, and it's kind of accepted standard format. Do you use more often that in Sweden, or it's not that mainly used?
No, I'm not so familiar with that. I'm sorry. No, I'm. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We can look at it later, maybe. Yes.
My name is Luis. I want to ask of your advice on someone who has been working in different companies for, like, let's say for 5 years with 5 different companies.
Yes.
What do you think about the person? Is it appropriate for that person to put the 5 different companies? Because maybe I will just give a clue before you answer.
Yeah.
Because I feel as if I am an employer and I find someone who has been moving from company to company, I think that person is incompetent or that person has a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, what do you think? Is it okay if you are in that position, you list all the companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, that starts, I start thinking a lot of things. Maybe it's when stuff gets hard in a work, you just move to the next one or something like that. But if you have a good explanation till why your resume looks like that. So it's good to include stuff like that in your personal letter. Yeah, I know I have 5 employments in 5 years, and just give an explanation to why it is like that. But no explanation, then I start thinking a lot of questions, or why did it just be for 1 year or 6 months, or yeah. So try to avoid bringing up a lot of questions. Try to bring up curiosity instead. So, was that an answer on your for your question?
I have another one, sorry. So, I don't need the microphone.
Yeah.
So
It's for
I have had experience so much in looking for jobs. Like, okay, you have studied for so long, and you have, let's say, a master's degree and a PhD, and you go to a job, and somebody looks at your application, at your CV, and say, it's like you are too qualified. That has been said to me a couple of times.
Yeah.
So what do you think one has to do? Because I will not be waiting every day. I need to do something. I need to work.
Yeah.
So do you think it's okay for me to cut off some of those qualifications and get a job, or I continue pursuing the job with the qualification?
I don't think you should cut out anything, but I think you should explain what you're explaining to me now. I know that I'm maybe educationally wise overqualified for the job, but that you want this type of job and why you want this type of job. So give an explanation. Because if I have a resume and someone applied to a job and it's very overqualified, I start thinking maybe this person will be bored in 4 months of this job. So just try to explain your situation and why you're applying for a specific job. I think that's a good idea. Was that answer to your question?
Yeah, somehow.
Somehow, yeah. If you have your resume with you, we can look at it later. Any more questions on resume? Or you can just come up to me afterwards. And how to write a personal letter. If you apply to an ad, print the ad or look at the ad and mark out what they have as characteristics and keywords that are important for the role. And then explain why you have this type of characteristics in your personal letter. So if they're looking for a very, how do you say, what can I bring for an example? Yeah, innovative. Good, thank you. Then describe why you are innovative. That's a good thing, because you can find a lot of these keywords and characteristics in the ad, and use those keywords in your personal letter. If the company don't publicly, I think I wrote there, looking for coworkers, read up on the company, so you know what's important, what they do, what products or what type of service they work with. And make sure you include stuff like that in your personal letter. You can always Google there and look at their website and read, and you can find keywords. Maybe they have slogans or other type of written parts about their company and the way they work. And why you can contribute to their company. And if the company doesn't advertise and you want to get in touch, it's not wrong to pick up the phone or call or send an email or visit, just to give them a sense of who you are or presentate you or make them connect the CV to you as a person. And maybe you can get some information. Yeah, it's very interesting. Your resume or personal letter is very interesting. But we're not hiring right now, but call me again this spring or this autumn, because maybe otherwise. And of course, check with them if it's okay if you call later on to see if it's a spot open. That's a good idea. Because maybe there's so much to do right now when you're there visiting, and somehow someone quits and they are in need for a new coworker, and then you call. Things you should include in your personal letter. Why you're applying for a job. Focus more on desire and feeling. Why you apply, why is it exciting for you, rather than the reason, I need a job. Okay, but why do you need this job? Do your experience and educations match the job? Describe tasks, situations, and event that indicate that you have experience and things that matches to the specific role. Do you have maybe personal qualities that match the requested role. We need an open-minded, or we need an something like that. So describe yourself so that you match as the person they're looking for. Because most companies or most ads I write, it's always important how you are as a person and your personal qualities. And about yourself, give the reader something personal. That's a way to make them remember you easier and get an indication of who you are as a person. Not much, but something, maybe an interest or something cool you have done before, or something that makes you pop from the rest of the pile of personal letters. Emphasize why they should meet you. This is kind of a hard thing, but finish the letter by emphasizing yourself with a strong finish. But what is a strong finish? That's up to you to maybe think about, and it can take a lot of time, but to create a sentence that will make them want to meet you. I don't have a good example right now. I'm sorry, but yeah, something. It maybe depend on what type of job you're applying for too. But to have a good finish on your personal letter, that's a way for them to also remember you, because that's the last thing they will read, and that's the first thing they will think about later on. Yes. Do you have any questions about personal letter? Should we? How to think or how to write? Maximum 1 page. And that's an A4 page. And that's even quite a long personal letter. A bit over a half page or something like that. Because yeah, it's a very important step to read applications, to select. That's the first selection you do. It's also a very quick one. So don't write 3 pages with text on both sides that we have to read to find specific information that you're interested of. Keep it short, because it's a short step to read applications, but it's a very important one. Yes?
How many minutes do you spend in one application in average?
Yeah. The distance
Okay.
students, they can't hear. That's why we're using the microphone, and I'm not doing a good job. That's why Fredrik is shouting. The question was, how many minutes do the employers spend on the resume and the personal letter when they're reading it before they go to the next one?
Yeah, that's quite individual, and it might depend on how advanced the role is. But at the first glance, it's not even minutes. Because it's not how you rank who's most fit for the job. The first thing to look for is the one who are not fit for the job. And after that, it comes interviews and stuff to evaluate how fit the person are for the job. So it's mainly to just select who's not fit for the job, or yeah. So it can be a quick one. Yes.
Is it reliable to the gentleman in the corner there with talking about? You said 1 minute for reading the resume and the personal letter. If you have this wide experience with working in a lot of spaces, working places, as he said, instead of one places. And you have to explain it in your personal letter. 1 minute is a quite short time to stand out that you're qualified for the job.
Yes, it is. So a tip for that. Make sure that it's easy to read it, to give like a sense of why it looks like this. So maybe start your personal letter with something like that. Yeah, I know I have 5 different employers in 5 years, but an explanation or something. So that's maybe an idea to start your personal letter with something, an explanation why it looks like that. Yeah, is that answer to your question? Or yeah. Yes. No further questions? Then we can, if you have, please show us your resume and personal letter, and we can give you some feedback.
I have one just last question.
Yeah.
What is the biggest mistakes when you read personal letter and resumes that you see?
Don't include some way to contact you with. And your resume can be very, very interesting. But if I don't have a phone number or an email address to contact you with, then it's no way I can be in contact with you. So.
And what is the best tips? If you have one tip with a resume and personal letter to really think about before you send it, what would that be?
Har du någonting, Britta?
I think Pontus named it a lot of times. Make the CV and the personal letter very short. Make the first sentence and the last sentence are very important. Allow us to want to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, and for those of you who have met us before, we always talk about the NABC, and then it's the hook and the close. And I feel like a lot of you that's here today, you have, when you pitch like a company, it's the same thing. You have your own company, you are a brand. So think a little bit like that. And the close and the hook can be something that sums it up, the red thread that we're always talking about. If we don't have anything more now, I think we give Pontus a big applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many of you have brought your CVs and personal letters? It's some of you, yes. If you have like some questions, if you don't have your personal letter and CV, of course you can just stay and then you can have a little small talk. We just give you some minutes now, if you have time to change it from the feedback that you have gotten, and then just raise your hand, and then Pontus and Britta can walk around and give you feedback. Sounds good? Great.